hello and welcome. It's another week inside. We're all cooped up and we're all caged in. And obviously, that's what you're listening to. Caged In with me, your host, Petros a podcast where week by week I break down a Nicolas Cage film with a guest, sometimes on my own, sometimes it's a shambles, sometimes it's a load of fun. But I like to go on that I am the least informed Nicolas Cage podcast there is. There's many of other Nicolas Cage podcasts out there, but none as unique as this one. Last week's episode was an amazing chat with Todd Farmer, the writer and actor from Drive Angry. Whereas this week, I will be talking about Trespass. And I was joined this week by Joe Chendango. Joe has a podcast called Flyover State of Film. He does it with a few of his buddies. Check those guys out. Sure, in the episode, you'll hear him plug it. You'll hear, it's a good one. Not the film, the episode. I was going to say that right up front. The film is no good. But before we get into the discussion I had with Joe about Nicolas Cage and Trespass, he's a big Cage fan, and he wanted to talk a lot about Cage, and I'm always there for it. Let's go over, though, to my mate, the old anagram hunter. As you all know, that is Thomas_W_Hunter on Twitter, and he is there for all your anagram needs. And this week, let's see if it has anything. Again, gives us a little nugget of what to expect with Trespass, and his anagram this week is pst, arse. So that for you guys trying to work out the anagram, it's PSST, so pst, ... arse, as in ARSE. The British proper way of saying arse, not ASS, not ass. So it's pst, arse. I normally wait till the end of the episode, but I've already said that I did not enjoy this film. So I think that anagram is very much on point for this movie. So, yeah, without further ado, here's the conversation I had with Joe. What happens when you get the bad guys from Home Alone 3 and put them in an R-rated movie? Well, you get this week's movie, Nicolas Cage's second film with Joel Schumacher, Trespass. It's a hostage thriller, maybe lacking in some of the thrills. But like any good burglar, I don't go to a job alone. I'm joined by Flyover State of Film podcast host, Joe. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm very well, yeah. It's been a busy week of recording and getting stuff done and just immersing myself in that Cage-like work ethic.
Oh, man. Oh, the work ethic of him is insane. But I'm really excited to be here. If you follow me on Twitter or listen to Flyover, the people would know I'm a huge Cage fan. Not just fan like you. I like discussing. I like talking about it. And it's not just the craziness of that. It's actually the actor.
Yeah. You've just answered my first question I ask all my guests, which is, are you a Nicolas Cage fan? You very much are. And yes. Which leads me to my second question, which is, what was the first Cage movie you remember seeing that kind of had an impact on you?
Oh, so my Cage backstory is fun. So I'm 28. And the first R-rated movie we owned, what I was allowed to see, and it ended up actually being one of my first DVDs, was Face Off. Probably on its release year, too. So that's my memory. And I always was like, this movie's great. And I always liked, I was always a fan. I watched the stuff growing up through high school. Then I went to college, and me and my one buddy started off a bit of a goof, and then it became kind of serious. Is every year, like twice a year, especially during semester, we would do a Cage and Beers where we watch 3 to 4 Cage movies a day of all variety, whether it's the crazy, the action, to just like the new one or whatnot. We essentially drink a case of beer, watched all the movies, then go out at night. And it was a blast. And then since then, a Cage aficionado, basically. But Face Off, I'd say, would be the first strong memory.
What was it about Face Off that like pulled you in? Was it like the kind of like most people say it's that first 10 minutes? Because that's one thing I always say, and I've said it many times on this podcast, is it's really that first 10 minutes he's Castor Troy, and the rest he's Sean Archer basically, and it's that draws you in. Like
I think like I'm trying to remember back to like pre it being like his Face Off just being like this is one of my favorite movies and being like 12. It's that first few minutes. It's not grasping what goes on also with him being a child murderer and like him like doing the head roll as the as the priest and putting the bomb and the tool guns. Like I remember renting that with like telling friends to rent it during sleepovers because it was just this is cool and it's a R-rated movie I was allowed to watch. But I would say that would definitely be the first Cage, like, full-out memory, draws you in, stuck with me. And then to grow up a little older and realize how long that thing was.
Oh, yeah, it's a long movie. So I on this podcast, I've actually done a commentary track for Face Off, which you can start with the movie. And, yeah, it will be me and two of my friends just getting drunk. And
hell yeah.
Trying to make sense of what's going on in that movie because it is a long beast, and by the end of it, one of us fell asleep. I'll let the listeners find out which one of us it was, but that's a fun ride. So, Face Off is your first one, but what is your favourite Cage movie? Everybody has their favourite, whether it's the Crazy Cage or the actor Cage.
I do find these questions. I find that question harder when I am, like I said, like such a big fan that I don't. If I had to find one that was rolling, I'm going to pick two.
Yep.
I'm going to go in two camps. Here. I go in two camps of your crazy beer movies,
yep,
and like party movies, and then I think there's where I see Cage as like the full blown actor. And for me, the one I've ran to death. If it was a tape, it would be broken. It would be Con Air. I find Con Air a ton of fun, scene for scene. It's silly, it's entertaining, and honestly, it's just it's a good movie, and he's not even the best part in it sometimes. And that's all right. Like I do think Cage gives people he eats the scenery, but he gives people the room to like also eat the scenery, which is fun.
Well, that movie, there's a good few scenery chewers in there.
That's my pick for like,
yeah,
all of them. Or not all of like the main, and then the serious actor. Actually, you just did an episode on it. It's one I revert people to, and I swear it would have been a bigger hit if he was is Joe. I think he's at his best in Joe as an actor.
Like
it's just subtle. It's a serious movie. I know at the time it was that and Mud got released, and I actually thought that was a better version of Mud.
Well, it was a very interesting year. So looking at a year, it's 2013. Mm-hmm. It came out the same year as like Blue Ruin, which is very much in that same vein of that kind of look at kind of outback America, basically, kind of like small towns and how they get on. And Joe is a fantastic movie. It's up there as kind of like Cage. It's Cage's uncut gems, as it were, in that like he kind of like been pigeonholed as this kind of like off the wall crazy actor, and like as Sandler was for like just doing these dumb like Happy Madison comedies. But then Cage came out with Joe, and it is like I don't quite understand how that movie never got any like Oscar nods or like any kind of.
I think I bring that up because I have the same feelings of that. It's one of the ones that was like, you listen to critics that year, and it was the dark horse. It was people's dark horse, but no one picked it up. No traction. It barely got funding. And I was reading. I'm sure you saw. There was like was like a Reddit thing or something recently of a guy watched all of his straight to DVD movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he posted about them and reviewed them briefly. And he had Joe on there, and I just only internally went, that shouldn't be on your list there. That is not in the DVD caliber you should be reviewing.
No.
Trespass is, however. But yeah, so Joe would be that pick. Like I said, I think we could sit here and ramble off a bunch of other really good, just acted movies. Like a really popular one is Lord of War for people. Like that's where they go, wow, great actor. Adaptation, obviously. So I like, even recently, I mean, the big one recently is Mandy. Color Out of Space was really cool. On our podcast, we just did a dual episode of Mandy and Color Out of Space.
Well, it seems that like Mandy, Color Out of Space, and I don't know what it's going to be called, if it's Wally's or Willy's Wonderland, almost seem like a kind of like tone trilogy that Cage is working in. I'm yet to see Color Out of Space, but just from like the kind of aesthetics of them and like Cage leaning into this like grindhouse with an art house flair to them,
it's worth the rental. Put it this way, if I said like Mandy's the better film.
Yep.
Color Out of Space has more of it's definitely a lower budget, but that's still okay. It's actually the dude who did the guy who directed The Island of Dr. Moreau that got kicked off.
Richard Stanley.
Richard Stanley. Yeah, we just talked about it's his first directorial like since then.
Yeah, he's like one of my dream guests. Like Richard Stanley, Panos Cosmatos are my dream guests, because
I hope you get both of them. I don't know how easy Richard Stanley is to get a hold of.
Well, he is British, so I've got that swinging in my favor.
So yeah, there's that. I feel like Cage was more doing what he did for like Mom and Dad in Color Out of Space than what he was doing in Mandy. But that's really all.
Well, it feels like we could just talk about just Cage as an entity all night,
all day. I think. But I'll come back for others to.
We've got a very pressing matter at hand, which is discussing Trespass. So this movie, it's very much in the vein of, for me, I'm finding it hard to talk about because I've just literally come off watching this movie and...
Okay, I watched it last night and then I put it on during work today, so I kind of absorbed it more.
Well, it's got the setup for this movie is a husband and wife at home. So Cage plays the husband, and his wife, Sarah, is played by Nicole Kidman. Their daughter doesn't really want to be at home. She wants to go out, and then all chaos ensues. They essentially get burgled by the burglars from Home Alone 3. What did you think of this movie, Joe?
Okay, so this one was one I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Closer to its release, actually, and I remember we watched it. We watched it for the Cajun Beers Valley back in 2011 when it was released, and we were like, or maybe 2012, and we were like, it's fine. Like I remember thinking, like it's not horrible. It's very forgettable. You're right though. It has a hard to talk about. But my main memory of this movie is it's right when Blockbusters were closing. Right? There was one near my college, and we went, and it was their last sale, and it was the one DVD that was filled the racks because no one bought it. I thought I owned it for that reason. I didn't. I watched this like free on Tubi. But anyway, the movie itself, I think there's a reason why Joel Schumacher, this was his last feature film.
Well, yeah, Joel Schumacher, again, this is his second outing with Cage. Obviously, the first being 8mm.
And that one's not that bad.
But like Joel Schumacher himself, a very interesting guy, interesting enough to make claims that he slept with over 20,000 men. It's like just shows you what kind of director you're dealing with in this matter. Which like I don't know whether those like claims are true. I'm guessing bullshit on that.
It's 10,000.
But like the way these movies tend to work, these kind of thrillers, is the payoff needs to be worth it. And the payoff for this is just messy, it's sloppy. Like, you want a twist. This movie has it gives up its like cards really early on why they're really there. Like, you hope there's going to be some double crossing. Like, there's a moment, I'm not sure if you picked up on this. There's a moment where it's like, this is not what we, like Sarah says, this is not what we agreed to, which made me think that it was going to a place of like, I was like, oh shit.
She's in on it.
Yeah, she's in on it. I was like, well, that's a twist. But this movie has no twist. No. And it's kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
It literally, like, I'm going to jump to the end. It literally ends as like, all right, like, happy family ending, one rough night.
But not even that. Like, their sole purpose for being there is that one of the guys who was supposed to do like reconnaissance on the house fell in love with Nicole Kidman's character, which is like just totally.
And you think they're gonna have like in that scene, like, oh, they had an affair. But it's just going wrong. No, he was just like, I love you, I'm stalking you. And she's like, leave me alone. And then she never fails to mention this weird encounter that she had with anyone.
Well, this is probably a good moment to talk about the flashback moments in this film, because I found them insufferable. They kind of like came in with these like overexposed shots, and it's like, we get it. It's a flashback. Like what more do you, unless they kind of did that like like that like wavy effect on screen. Like, yeah. It's like we're well in. We know this is like a capsule movie. It's set in a house. If there's another location, it's definitely going to be a flashback.
Well, this was the first. We're talking Cage too. This is his first, what I can truly consider the first landmark of the straight to DVD films. You look at the IMDb. The other ones before this were teetering theatrically. And then it's Trespass. And then it's like a theatrical release. And then it's, I don't want to call them shit. Then it's just harder to do. But this movie's shit.
Well, what's quite interesting about that is like, this movie actually got a theatrical release and like VOD at the same time.
Oh, it holds the record at the time for soonest in the theaters, out of theaters.
Yeah.
On VOD. So, but I agree with you though. Back to the flashbacks for Manity. I'm not a big fan of flashbacks in movies to begin with, or recaps unless they're done well. And it's. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around there. I'm going to go back to Cage. This is a performance I actually did not like how he was doing, in the sense of like, he chose to do this weird character who like talks like he has autism.
Yeah, he has this voice that I can only like describe as Nicolas Cage doing Kermit the Frog.
Mm-hmm.
It's this kind of like, oh, okay, are you gonna? I got money. I got no money. Like, he's just kind of like.
Because he normally is like it's me, Nick. But he has like this, geez, honey, geez, it's the diamonds. You need a diamond cutter.
But we're led to believe at the beginning that like he is smarter than he lets on, and like it just don't like the portrayal of the character. And it's really interesting. At one point, he refused to play that part. He wanted to play Ben Mendelsohn's character. He wanted to play Elias. And like Joel Schumacher then offered the part to Liev Schreiber and it's just like that.
I was going to bring that up, that like he was just like, I want to be this person. They were like halfway through filming,
which is absolutely like bizarre. Like, and it tells you, it shows you like you're not in for a good time if even
No,
if the actors are not enjoying themselves. Like,
no. Oh, Nicole Kidman looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. One thing I did notice on this watch today was it's Ben Mendelsohn, your main
yeah, the
burglar. He was doing his best like Heath Ledger Joker.
well, like Ben Mendelsohn, like is a fantastic actor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Like on paper, this should work. Like if you look at that like cast.
Cage, Ben Mendelsohn, Nicole Kidman, a thriller.
Yeah, it like Joel Schumacher. Do you know what I mean? It could have been.
Yeah.
In another hand, like it could have been up there with like Panic Room. It could have been.
I was thinking Panic Room. So the thing I was rolling about that killed me, speaking of how bad some things are, was I know it's little, but I was dying. They're supposed to be this smart family. You know, the password is diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but it was, that to me was hysterical.
Well, you mentioned that point of their password is diamonds. I question the operator from the like security system because the daughter does not sound
Like she's partying.
she's having a good time. Like
No.
she's literally like, no,
Well, that's another thing you were bringing up earlier, saying there's no twist in this. Like, so I'm thinking, I'm watching going, oh, she's still going to send someone up.
Yeah.
Nope. Takes another call.
Well, it's like that thing, like, I just kept thinking, like, what is this similar to? Like, and it's that thing, like, you think, like, Inside Man or something like that. Like, you get to the end and you're shown this reveal and it's like, oh, fuck. Or even, like, the Ocean's films where it's like, everything's like, it's like a card trick. Everything's held away from you. And then you get this kind of, oh, here's your card. There is, like, the card you get dealt in this is a joker because it's like, we got you. There is no twist. It's just this benign bullshit. It's just that this guy is obsessed with her. And it's like, really? That's the motive? Like, this gang of, like, burglars as well make no fucking sense. So they have this, like, weird chaperone who looks like Guile from Street Fighter. And then they bring, like, a drug-addled stripper with them. And it's
they have
like,
there's no chemistry through anything of any of the movie, of any of the characters.
That is a really good point because like you want to care, like watching any movie, the kind of protagonist you want to care about them, and in this I was like kind of like I don't even know this family. Like it happens really quick. Like it's like, well, they're not happy anyway, so why do I like? If they were like a happy family and they got invaded, and like got their house got invaded,
and then like things had been revealed throughout of like, actually we have this and we have this. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like,
just they start off sad. Things get revealed that we kind of already knew, except the one part of she wasn't having a affair with the guy, but she like of the with the roofer or the painter or whatever, but he wanted it and she was seriously questioning everything.
It's a bizarre setup. I'll tell you that for sure. Like I don't know.
Because when you sent me the list, like what do you want to talk about? I don't know why it was like Trespass. I remember that being fine. Like I remember at least like I'll revisit it. There's enough probably to talk about, and it's like you like I almost watch them all. So it's like we just watched it was bad, but not the Adjustment Bureau, the Bureau Report or whatever,
the Humanity Bureau.
That was genuinely not good.
I'm yet to cover that movie, so I haven't actually watched it. So I'm now filled with joy to be watching it.
I mean, it was fine. But you know, I mean, this is no USS Indianapolis or like Left Behind, but like this is one of those movies where like if my dad caught it on like cable, he'd watch it, be like, that was decent, and forget about it, like just go on with his life, never remembering he saw this movie called Trespass.
Well, it's an interesting thing around this time. So this movie was released in 2011, the same year as Seeking Justice, and it is kind of the time of Cage just doing these like almost forgettable movies that like just kind of he plays the average man in above it over his head, which is like I don't know, they feel like roles that would have been given to Richard Gere in the 90s.
I have a story, speaking, not Seeking Justice, same years though. I have a story for you. So as I said, we watched these Cage movies in college, and I already mentioned there was a Blockbuster with the Trespass. Well, Stolen was being advertised at the time, and this Blockbuster was about, let's say, 20 minutes from where I was. So it was a drive. Middle of the night, I was like, I'm going to steal that Stolen poster. I want the Cage poster for our place. And it was one of these big vinyl ones. It was 2 pieces. That's how big it was. It was ones they put in the front of the windows. Drove up, 2 a.m., ripped it off, drove home. I had this Stolen poster. I don't think I have it anymore. I mean, it's 7 years ago.
You had a stolen poster.
Yes. It was 2 parts. We put it in our college apartment, and there was a little sticky note on it that said, yes, this poster was stolen.
Amazing.
But being is that was the time with Seeking Justice, Stolen. You're starting to do these like, I didn't even say Richard Gere in the 90s. It was like someone was like, hey, Liam Neeson's doing pretty well with Taken. You should do some of those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, Stolen was a ripoff of that, in that this episode isn't that, but all those movies, Seeking Justice, Stolen, I can't think of other ones, but they're very similar, the same years. Trespass, it's like, it's funny. It's like I was like, I'll take the straight-laced dad role, but also said, I'm going to add my own twist to it. Let me do my thing, Joel. And his twist was being autistic.
Well, like that is the Cage way. From like speaking to people who've worked with him and just like watching all of his movies and like watching interviews and listening to people talk about him, he very much will come in and say like, I've got a take on this character, or like it'll be like, give one take. Like if we do 7 takes of a shot, give me 1. So like he kind of like, I commend him for it, that he can kind of.
I have
like,
no.
Yeah. He comes in and he kind of like he puts a stamp on it, and like he does have some shining moments in this. Like there's a moment he kind of like really like gives it some gusto, and it's like kind of like really fucking.
Are you talking about with the scene where he's, or at least this is what I'm thinking of, where with the code?
Yeah.
Where they're like, the code, and he's like, I don't have the code. We don't know the code. You know, the diamonds are fake.
Yeah, he's just like you get this. You get that like Cage intensity, which like unfortunately in something like Seeking Justice never comes out. Whereas this, it's like it's boiling. It's nearly at boiling point, and you're hoping for like a classic Cage boil over, where it's like like now we got some good stuff. Like
I watched one recently. I said I do watch these. I don't shy away. Where actually I thought it wasn't terrible, but he had that holdback, which was definitely like, it was like definitely they didn't want him doing his own character. Was oh god, see, not that's how bad my memory is sometimes. You fill the air for a second, right?
Yeah, no worries.
No, it was he was just holding back. It was I know you're gonna get to this movie. Where the hell is it? Nicolas Cage. It was new.
You're going to be here a while. There's 94 films to look through. Hopefully, you're an
105. Now it's close. It was A Score to Settle.
A Score to Settle. Yeah. That's
generic mob movie. He held back though.
Which, like, sometimes we see it, like, I don't know. He has the, like, he does the range. That's what I do like about him. He does do the range.
There's this. I feel like you have it tattooed on your back. There's this quote, the Roger Ebert quote about Nicolas Cage is my all-time Nicolas Cage quote of a person talking about him. I'm gonna paraphrase here, obviously. It was, I don't understand why of our greatest actors of our generation, Nicolas Cage isn't up there with De Niro, Pacino, and he rambled off a few, and then he said Nicolas Cage should be in there. You know what? And this is at the time when Knowing was released. So like mid-2000s, kind of when he really get it. He's always had that either you love him or you hate him reputation. And Ebert was like, this is the only guy I see on screen, and I'm, like I said, I'm paraphrasing, and so on, that every time, bad or good in a good movie, is giving this 110%. Well, and it's the truth.
That's
the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It was saying in the movie back then, let's say it's 2006 when that quote was done, there was some big stinkers in there. He was still giving his all on them.
Well, if we look back over his career, like even like The Wicker Man, as much of like a turkey as that movie is, Nicolas Cage is giving it, like, and he does. He turns up. He turns up all the time. Like he will give 110%. And from speaking to people, he will be there first day. He'll be there for table reads with
my
scripts memorized. He will know his monologues. So like,
my fiance. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, I was gonna say we can't knock the work ethic of him. Like he does.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about Wicker Man, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Trespass, guys, but there's not much to talk about. My fiance, when we first watched, I had seen it, but we first watched Wicker Man. We're big fans of the How Does It Get Made podcast.
Yep.
The Cage staple. So for that, I was like, oh, we'll watch Wicker Man. And by the end of Wicker Man, I thought it was so interesting. She's not a horror movie person, this and that. She went, I mean, it's a bad movie. It's ridiculous. But there's a good movie in that movie somewhere. Meaning, like, Nicolas Cage has his moments of, like, the bees and this and that. But he's not bad in that movie.
Well, I think that movie is let down from the get-go in the fact that the opening titles are written in papyrus.
There's a movie called The Covenant. Is a How Does It Get Made one called The Covenant. It's like about witches. It's like the Winter's terrible with the Winter Soldier. It's like male witches. That one also has an intro. It's like a 2-minute slideshow written in papyrus to let you know the backstory.
Yeah, so like in regards to Trespass, like let's kind of like break down these burglars we have. So we have obviously Ben Mendelsohn's character who is sporting a fantastic mustache. I'll give him.
I was gonna say the mustache is a character itself. It comes through his mask. It shines. Actually, if you were to break down every bit of this, which we're doing, Ben Mendelsohn is the only good part of this.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like for him, in his career, this is early Ben Mendelsohn. Obviously, an actor who kind of like made a bit of his name for himself in Animal Kingdom, the Australian film, but then obviously has gone on to do like amazing stuff. He's in the Netflix show. Is it Bloodline? Like,
yes, he's in Bloodline, and
he was in The Dark Knight Rises. He's kind of like
he's a good actor.
He's an amazing character actor. Just has this like presence to him, which is like, and it's great casting in this because he does have this like underlying menace to him that just is like it's what you need from.
I'm telling you, he was doing at one point he was doing Heath Ledger's Joker,
which is
in this role.
Which is
not an insult.
Not a bad comparison at all. Like a lot of people hold that up as like.
Let's start going.
It's a weird thing you mention Heath Ledger's Joker, because this movie has 3 ties to the Batman franchise. Obviously, we
Joel
have
Schumacher,
Nicole
Ben
Kidman.
Mendelsohn. Oh yeah,
So like we kind of have like this weird melange of people who've somehow been involved with Batman, and then also have done this very, very stinky thriller about a family we do not care about.
oh, I just put a bullet in their heads. But I don't on the burglars. There's all these things. We're talking about the actors a lot right now, and I looked up on the IMDb at the time. I was very curious because it looked like, if you were to look at the careers in 2011, it looked like Nicole Kidman was going in the way of Nicolas Cage by doing this movie and some other things. You know, the female Cage. Like, I'm just going to do all these things. Like, Nicolas, like, this is insulting. Nicolas Cage had all the business in the world being in this movie at the time. Nicole Kidman had no business to be in this movie. But like, you know, I pull up her IMDb at the time and where she's going, and I was like, oh, you know what? It makes sense. And then she rebounded herself because we realized in like the years like 2011 to now, you know, she's been nominated for Emmys, she's been nominated for Oscars. Like she's been in good things and not just like the weird good like we look at Cage.
Well, she's like similar in Cage in that obviously like a year later she did The Paperboy, which is kind of like
that's a cult film though. I
exactly,
feel like
but it's in that like Cage does those like cult movies that occasionally just jump out at the zeitgeist and catch people. But then it gives her a chance while she's doing that to
actually
bounce back.
She caged it up. You know what? She has a few that shines out of nowhere. Like, so you know what? I'm wrong there, but it's an interesting pairing. But so the rest of the burglars. So that then you have the guy who's in love with her.
Yeah, Jonah. Who's like,
Jonah.
So his relationship is he's Elias's, Ben Mendelsohn's character's brother. So we have this again, we don't find that out until way into the movie, at least 45 minutes. And it's like, well, this isn't a reveal that changes anything. It's just like, this feels like sloppy story writing.
Well, it's like funny because you think it's gonna have something to do with it. It doesn't, and they also act like they're held up in like a negotiation situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was wondering the whole time, like, why are they using their names?
Well, they're just like,
you know, like it's very much it's sloppy story writing.
Well, it is that thing that they are just in over their heads, but not in like the way. This could be totally different. Like it's kind of they've gone, all right, Dog Day Afternoon. We'll take some kind of hapless fools who are trying to rob somewhere, but they're not the lead characters. We'll take this kind of unlikable family. Like one of the things I was hoping when I was kind of like, oh, okay, here's a family who are drenched in wealth and are kind of like, maybe we're supposed to not root for them. Maybe we're supposed to be like, this is like a kind of Parasite style story where it's like this is a send up of people of wealth and like they're getting their comeuppance, but then it's like nobody in this movie is likable. We've got this family that is like, oh right, so we've got a daughter who doesn't really give a shit about her parents. We've got 2 parents who kind of like from the get-go, I'm like, my first note was like, they're in a loveless marriage.
Yes.
Like, so it's like,
oh honey, like.
And like we see within the first like 2 minutes, he's hiding stuff from her. Like she seems cagey, for want of a better word, like with him. And it's just like it's muddy, and like that's the thing. When you get the payoff at the end, that it's like we're all a happy family who love each other. It's like, well, I don't fucking care. I don't care about any of you because like the film has given me no reason to care about any of you because from the get go you weren't likable people.
No, and it's hard to stay with the grad. Like, give me something. I think a way to improve it is they should have made like maybe the daughter's relationship with the parent, at least one of the parents, like very like, oh, like I love my mom, but I hate my dad because he's a hard ass or something like that.
Yeah,
Not, it was an engaging, it's a very different Cage movie, but of recent, but engaging, and they think they did that well with the kids, was mom and dad.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so that's a real miss. You're right. I think after reviewing, you're absolutely right. It's this crime thriller, this hostage thriller that should have worked. It's a recipe for success, and it just doesn't. No one showed up to care. One thing I don't know if you were able to, because you do your research. So I Googled Trespass movie commentary, right? It's like, I wonder if there's a director's comment. No commentaries, none of this, or at least I can't find any.
No.
But a web, it's defunct now because their servers are definitely not on. A website had a commentary track of Joel Schumacher doing a trailer commentary. I couldn't find it, but it wouldn't load. I'm like, I wonder what he says in that. Probably nothing.
I couldn't manage to find anything like that. There was an interview on the DVD, but I imagine like from Joel Schumacher, but I imagine it's just him going, "Please see my movie." Like it seems like even he didn't show up. Like some of the angles in this film, like there's a lot of Dutch angles. Like there are like, give it like credit due. Like movies are hard work to make. Like there are some like the setup. Like there are moments in it. Like you're like, oh, this is quite tense. But like these movies heavily rely. I can't stress this enough. Heavily rely on a decent payoff. And this. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, for as crass as this sounds, it's like sex without the orgasm. Like that's what this movie kind of boils down to. It's like I'm pumping.
I think it's more of like a dirty hand job by getting busted by your parents like midway through than sex.
Yep.
It's like like you're wanting to give me one. So I'm letting you, but like, this isn't doing anything. Sorry to be even more crass.
That is a perfect analogy for this movie, because even like when we get to the end and like there's the reveal, like of the money was there the whole time in like what which is a scene that is lifted straight from Lethal Weapon 2.
You know what? I'm not familiar with Lethal Weapon 2 enough to even pick up on that.
So there's this scene where like it kind of boils down to a fight. It may even be Lethal Weapon 1. But like, yeah, there's a fight in a part of a part of the house that's being renovated. And Cage manages to nail gun a guy's foot to the floor, which is like,
of course.
And yeah, the money's behind like a stud wall, and it's just like
that is one thing I give this movie props. They actually got nail gun technology correct. Because most movies, they shoot them, and that's not how nail guns work.
You have to press onto something.
You have to have the nozzle press, and this one did that right. Even the guy said, "It ain't gonna work, honey. How you're holding it at that one point." So one positive.
But then from that moment, I knew from that moment, I was like, that nail. Do you know what I mean? That was the bomb under the table. That was like that was the MacGuffin. That was the Pulp Fiction suitcase. I was like, that's coming back. That's got some relevance. that now has some relevance. So I was like, and then when it came back, I was like, you know what? I don't care.
Maybe this was just a tax write-off.
Hey, I don't know about Joel Schumacher's
I don't know
tax
either.
problems. I do know a bit about Nicolas Cage's, I imagine, but I could understand why, obviously, all the people involved in this got involved in it. I can understand why Cage got involved. I can understand why Nicole Kidman got involved.
Get it? It was probably, honestly, like, not a long shoot. You're going to get paid. It might be decent material. Then you move on next.
Well, as I've learned a lot of the time, a lot of scripts are amazing. The finished product, not so much.
You know who, as we're talking about Cage and we're talking about his direct-to-DVD-ness and this and that, you know who I don't think, you know what direct-to-DVD movies I've watched a few of, or streaming or wherever, that I don't think makes good ones that people put in the same camp as Cage is Bruce Willis's. He does more than Cage. He does almost more than Cage does.
Yeah, Bruce Willis.
And they're not good.
Well, the thing is, I don't think Bruce Willis's USP is the same as Cage's, because Cage's USP is sometimes, even though you may get a turkey of a Cage movie, at least you've got that glimmer of hope that you're going to get some kind of rage. You're going to get the rage in Cage.
You're going to get something fun.
Whereas Bruce Willis, you're going to get you're going to get some grunts, or you're going to
There's money in the cabin.
Or the high.
That sounds like a line they'd say.
The high point you'll get is a John McClane, but even that, don't get me started on the later Die Hard.
Oh God!
Because even though
I'm sorry I even brought it up.
Yeah, you're.
But yeah, Trespass is this very disappointment, because to me it should have been one of the. So I'm gonna look at these type of movies, right? And I think there's always one that's actually hey man, that's not that bad. Don't shit on it. Trespass should have been one of those, because I thought the movie Stolen was I remember thinking, honestly, not terrible. Mm-hmm. Same with Frozen Ground. I'm all kind of doing the same time frame, that early 2010s. I was not a bad movie. It just went to VOD. This one is a bad movie. At the end of the day, it's actually shit. I have logged all my movies on Letterboxd. I got to log this one. I have not. But it's fun though to talk about Cage. That is, at the end of the day, you could talk about anyone he does and pick anything. And if you want to go to a big Cage factor, his hair was normal.
Well, this is questions I always ask at the end of the podcast. Feels like a perfect time to start wrapping this thing up. Is that, yeah, I have a 3-point system which I kind of rate Cage movies on. And the first question always is, does Cage have bad hair in this movie?
No, I think his hair is age appropriate. He didn't overdo it.
And the second question is always, does Cage do anything crazy with his voice?
Yes, absolutely. He does an old-timey accountant jeweler from a caricature of someone, but also I really don't mean to be offensive when I say it, he also acts like he has autism.
Well, it's very nasal, isn't it? It's very he's got a clip on his nose, and he's I haven't got any money. I'm broke.
You know what he's doing? You know what voice he's doing? And you would know this. Remember them? It went viral a couple of years ago. That weird thing where he comes out. It's a weird video. He comes out with a prosthetic nose. He's really young. The cars break down on the side of the road.
Oh, this is flying over my head.
Oh shit! I'll find it and I'll send it to you. It just randomly went viral.
Okay.
It's some student film almost. I think a couple other famous people are also in it. But Cage gets out of this car in a Firebird, and he talks in that voice. He looks very he has a big, long prosthetic nose on.
Oh, Never on a Tuesday. It's like a film where he's got he literally turns up for 2 seconds. Yeah, this is this is like 1989 Cage. Yeah.
Yeah, so that went viral. The clip went viral last year. You do. So I knew you would know that. You knew the name. I didn't know the name. He's doing that voice.
Yeah, which seems like a weird place to mine from, because it's like that movie is not good. I've watched.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, that was that was like maybe. That was early on this podcast. That was.
I love it.
That was not fun. Like the only version of that I could find as well at the time was like a VHS rip on YouTube.
Oh, that's definitely what the clip pulled is. It's really bad quality. You're like, is that him?
Yep.
Anyway, that's his voice I'm hearing in it. I wish he channeled Vampire's Kiss in this one, just to say fuck it. He does channel Vampire's Kiss in Color Out of Space for you.
I'm looking forward to that.
Because Richard Stanley, I could save this for. I'm not invited on any more, I'm sure. But Richard Stanley, we just talked about it on a Flyover State of Film. Richard Stanley's favorite movie was Vampire's Kiss. So,
which is very weird because that is also Panos Cosmatos' favorite Nicolas Cage film, and they've both obviously cast him recently. So my third and final question that I always ask my guests to kind of gauge this Cage movie, or gauge any Cage movie, is: do we get what many people crave for when they watch a Nicolas Cage movie? Is do we get a freak out?
No, I don't think you get a worthwhile one. I think there's like things that might make the clip real.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get a worthwhile one. And I have problem with some of that being like the movie nerd I am. Like I hate, just a sidebar, I hate that like in the Nick Cage freakout loses his shit that they put Matchstick Men character in that, because that is a beautiful movie, and that is well deserved in that scene where he's not just losing it to be Cage. Anyway, that's my beef.
That's very much like a character quirk as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the character suffers from tics.
That's my beef in that movie. Sorry, I just meant to say that when you say it, but no, I answered the straightforward answer. I don't think there's any worth the freakouts. I think there's minor freakouts that we've said through this podcast. He shines through at some moments with it. He has it. But there's nothing like I almost wish there was a scene where he was like ripping the DVD or the shit off the walls, being like, you want a password or something like that? You want fine. Like there's none of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of all just pretty vanilla and just kind of just sit I don't know, which leads me to would you recommend people watch this movie, Joe?
No, man, I got 25 more we could put ahead of this one. This is one where I'm glad we talked about it. But I'm also there's nowhere ever would I say, yeah, Trespass is on cable, you should watch it. You go take a walk. You'll have a better time. And there are worse movies he's been in, but sometimes not the worst thing is just a boring, dull movie, and that's this. It's competently made. People showed up to act. It's just boring.
Well, I guess the thing is, a lot of the time, it's mediocrity that is kind of hampers the film the most, which I guess Trespass. Well, I know Trespass suffers from is just a level of mediocrity, and as I've said, doesn't have the payoffs that this kind of genre really warrants a lot of the time. It doesn't have that oh shit moment that you really want from something like this, and it kind of it teeters you up. Well, yeah, though the payoffs it gives you aren't payoff enough. Like the
Well,
fact.
what would you want to see? What was like one thing you would want to see in this movie? I like that. Like, I know we're wrapping it up, but
No. The thing I would have loved to have seen in this movie is like, yeah, one of the things I've said throughout this podcast is just some kind of like, there was some double cross or like Cage was a piece. Like it turned out that like even like Cage's character was a piece of shit and had like
no, he was then.
managed to like swindle his money elsewhere, or like it turned out he had fucking hired them guys or something like that, and it was like all a bit like he ended up getting in a van with them and like left the scene because it was just a way to kind of like
You
almost
want almost like I don't know why this movie that came to my head, but like remember an Inside Man, like him leaving the bank at the end. You're like, he's been in there the whole time.
yeah, or like that he like faked it. This whole ploy was for him to fake his death, go off.
He hired the painters to hit on Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. That would have been like, whoa, fuck. You know what I mean? It could have gone two ways. It could have gone great, or it could have gone like Reindeer's Games. Do you know what I mean?
That would have been fun. The Reindeer's Games ending would have worked for this. We one thing we haven't really touched on too much because I don't think there's much to talk about is even the thing with the daughter. It was so silly of like, I have a friend who wants to have sex with me. Like, he's loaded. I'll go get money from him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't, not saying everything needs to make sense. Like, I don't think that's the way to go and watch movies, but it didn't make sense in your plot. Like, just so she could crash the car and add a little more drama.
Well, a lot of this movie felt like it was just like going, we'll do that so we can do this. Like, in regards of regardless of the plot, regardless of like, we need to do this so it can push the plot forward, which for me is always like, that's a bad sign. And especially if you can see that, and especially if you can see that on first watch, you're like, oh, this is no, thank you. I will pass on this. I will take something else, please.
Because refresh my memory, what was the plot of 8mm?
8mm is a very interesting plot.
I've seen 8mm. It's been 10 years.
So 8mm is like, he plays like an investigator, and there's like a snuff movie, and he's got to get to the bottom of it, which is like, that is.
They made a competent movie. They're not at their peaks, but
I'd like Schumacher obviously had a promising start in filmmaking. It kind of like teetered off. Like, he's obviously known for kind of the death of Batman in the 90s, and then it took Christopher Nolan to kind of drag that out of the gutter. But like, I guess, yeah, this is kind of like, he went out with a whimper, not a bang.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer to see this being his last, I mean, for now, his last feature that someone's let him do.
Well, it totally makes sense that nobody has hired him since, because if this is he's showing up and just like producing this dirge, I don't really want to see anything.
You're right. He's probably old too, but I mean, I don't know. It's like you can talk about everything and you can talk about nothing about this movie at the same time.
I just had to double check. Joel Schumacher is very much alive. He's 80 years old.
I was going to say, maybe he's just older, and that makes sense why he doesn't work. He retired.
But yeah, I was worried for a second that I was like just ripping into a dead guy.
I knew he wasn't dead, because the minute he dies, that's the minute people start going, Batman and Robin, not as bad. Yeah, and that's already started. I know Batman or Robin myself is one of the ones was like, I loved it. And then when I started like early teenagers really like liking film more and knowing what bad was, being like, oh yeah, my favorite Batman movie actually is a bad movie. I'm still allowed to find it fun and watch it, but it's a bad movie. I actually don't really find it fun anymore. But if you were to ask me, because that was the Batman when I was growing up.
Yeah, well, like those movies kind of gain this ironic cult status, whereas I feel that unfortunately Trespass will not fall into that category.
If Trespass wasn't on digital, it wasn't on multiple platforms, it'd be one of those movies, if it was in the 80s, that we wouldn't be able to get our hands on because it was put on like Betamax and never anywhere else. That's Trespass. I feel like Trespass probably is on HD DVD somewhere.
I'm pretty sure I saw that when I was looking in my second-hand store when I was finding the DVDs whilst doing this.
Yeah, because that was the one thing. So when I first watched it, I was like, oh, YouTube had it. I've never watched a movie on YouTube like through like, oh, YouTube has it. Well, YouTube edits it, so you viewers at home don't watch it on YouTube. Like they bleep and edit. But Tubi has it for free, and that's just commercials. But there's no it's not edited out.
Well, that kind of really boils it down to what you get here. Like, you get a movie that is okay if you watch it with trailers and commercials, but I wouldn't pay for it. I wouldn't go out and watch it, which like feels like a perfect time to wrap this up. So
I swear I was to say wrapping. I swear I own this movie and I cannot find it.
Well, hopefully it has managed to just disappear into paper. So Joe, obviously you host Flyover State Film Podcast. Where can people catch up with what you guys are doing? And yeah, where can we find you on the IRL?
Yeah, you could find me on you could find my podcast with four of us, three of my good buddies, hosting, talking different movie topics each week, having a lot of fun playing games. That's Flyover State of Film on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, honestly, anywhere where you can find podcasts, SoundCloud. And then if you just want to hear me and my thoughts on things, I get a little cagey a lot on Twitter. I like to have a lot of fun, be very tongue-in-cheek. You can follow me at Chendango1. That's Chendango 1 on Twitter. And that's where main thing you can just communicate with me and honestly talk a decent Nick Cage.
Well, that's been absolutely perfect, Joe. It's been an absolute honour having you on the podcast.
My pleasure.
There we go, guys. Trespass is done and dusted, swept under the carpet to never be talked about again. Just very much like Joel Schumacher's career, since that movie never released another film. I wonder why that is. Joe, again, was a fantastic guest, and like many of the guests I get on this, he reached out to me over Twitter, and he I think he left what he thought was quite a flippant remark, which was, do you want an expert to talk about these films? And I was like, yeah, come on, let's duke it out. Let's talk some Cage. But yeah, talking to Twitter, if you ever want to follow me, it's at CagedInPod, and that's the same for Facebook. And Instagram's a bit different. It's just my full name, Petros __ on Instagram. It's just my personal one. I do post on there about Caged In. But Twitter's probably the best place to find me. Or if you feel differently about Trespass, if you think that it's a work of genius and I'm somehow misunderstanding it, or I made some points that are wrong, or yeah, you just in general want to tell me I'm wrong about any of the Nick Cage films I talked about, feel free to. on email, which is cagedinpod@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to just have a conversation about anything. And as I always ask, especially lately, if you want to leave a rating review, it'd be amazing if you did on Apple Podcasts. If you just get in like the review box, and instead of writing like a review going like, "Oh, the podcast is great" or whatever, like even if that is your thoughts, I love to hear it, but I want to hear something a bit different from you. I want to hear about your favourite Nick Cage film or your first Nick Cage film, and like your opinion on it, or why it's your favourite one, or just kind of like, did you become a fan after watching that first one? Just anything like that. And over the weeks, over the coming months or whatever, I'll go through them and I'll read them out. On obviously, if you're happy for me to do that, I'll read them out. But I just think it'll be like a way to keep up like a community thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Other people can read that as opposed to just like the kind of, I don't know, generic like, I really like this podcast, or I hate this podcast. The host is infuriating and he's not knowledgeable about film or Nicolas Cage in any way, which may be true. It may not be true, but I'm trying. I'm putting this out, and it's a lot of fun, and hopefully for you guys at home it's fun too. So if you want to do that, that's completely up to you. But seeing as we all have loads of time on our hands right now, why not? It takes 2 minutes. So as always, I've been Petros Patsilivus. I've been Caged In. You've been amazing. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. And I will see you next week to talk about justice, or seeking justice, depending on where you live, what territory. This movie has 2 titles. But I'll be joined by Phil from Those Movie Guys, one of my personal favourite podcasts. They're fantastic. Both Phil and Joe have been super supportive to Caged In and always talk about me for some reason. They kind of think I'm some kind of podcast savant, comedic genius in some regards, and I think those two are great. They've got this amazing chemistry, and have this dynamic, and it's just 2 friends talking about films, and it was an absolute blast to have Phil on, and you'll hear how good the conversation is next week. So until then, bye.